SS Draws says, what advice would you give to someone who is unsure about what to do in life, whether it be career-wise or otherwise? Career-wise or otherwise? That's an intense question, SS Draws. So I'm just going to picture you're sitting in front of me and you're saying, I don't know what I want to do professionally, and I don't even know what I want to do with my life. My first, and if you then ask me for advice, which you are asking me for here now, I would say, I would start asking you questions, asking you to investigate yourself for the things that you like doing, for the things that you can't stop thinking about, for the kind of fiction or nonfiction that you read, the areas of the world that fascinate you or irritate you. Each one of us is sitting here in these, roughly ambulatory engines of our bodies and looking out. And each of us latches on to different stuff about the world that moves us in different ways. And I think that there is value in investigating those parts of your point of view. The point of view that I have on the world, it doesn't feel like it's mine. It feels like it comes out of me and tells me what it is. I'm going to quote George Harrison again from Peter Jackson's incredible 8-hour Beatles documentary, Get Back, where Harrison says, we don't know what the album is going to be yet because it hasn't told us. When it tells us what it wants to be, that's when we'll know the album that we're making. And I believe that really powerfully, that my scepter, my British royal scepter fell down yesterday. It's fine. I really fell down right in front of me, and yet it's totally fine. Anyway, the week that I made this, the following week I made a sword. And when I was done with them, I was holding both of these things, and they were both about the same size, about the same weight. They occupied about the same amount of space. And these are very different objects. This is jewels, and well, it grants wishes. Look, see, it lights up. And the sword is like, it's violence. So when I finished these two things, I asked myself, whoa, what is it in me that needed to build both of these objects? And there's I'm still working that one out, but it definitely has to do with ideas about objects and power, and the power that they imply. And a sword implies a very specific, very obvious kind of power. A scepter implies a different, more subtle kind of power. It says, I have the resources to go pull incredibly valuable stuff out of the ground and hold onto and hoard it. And I can use those resources to affect you. So in a way, the sword and the scepter, I submit, I may end up displaying them together in the same box. They're the same object at two different scales. They are symbols of power at two different scales. That's me interrogating my own point of view after the fact. And Tarantino talks about this too. He talks about in the writing process, because people say, how do you layer all that culture into your writing? He's like, that's not how I'm thinking about it. I'm writing the stuff that's got to come out of me, and these characters are saying what they're saying, and I'm servicing this story. And after I make the movie, often is when he says, I realize what I was referring to. He's just pulling the stuff out of his head. So back to SS Draws. What is your point of view on the world is the question. Like, what is the... And again, this is a process to understand, and it will evolve and it will change over time. But right now, it may be that there's some some aspect of the world you want to fix. I have several friends who are civil engineers, and it's a very interesting kind of like, I don't know why I thought about this, but like civil engineering is very much a profession that draws people who are like, I want to go do that. I find a very specific kind of directedness among the civil engineers I have met and talked to in the world. And I'm always here for a specific point of view. When it comes from deep inside, it's always going to be interesting. And so SS draws. I suspect from your username that maybe you hold an implement and you might draw. And so the question I'm going to ask you is, like, you don't have to join your commerce and your art. You don't have to draw for a living, even if you want to draw all the time. You don't have to sell it. That's fine. But if you need to draw, you also need to adjust the commerce in your life around wanting to draw. Again, I'm making assumptions here, but I'm just like, I'm going to make what feels like a reasonable deduction. I have several friends who work bullshit jobs, who work jobs they don't care about and don't talk about, ever. They just pay their bills, and they do several other things that are creative and interesting, and they never talk about their jobs during any of those things. And like, I really appreciate that. So that's totally reasonable and a totally effective way of going through life. But it all begins with, what is the thing that you can't stop thinking about? That's where from an employment standpoint, because you can't stop thinking about it, that's where you're going to do the best work. Because you care about that thing. You don't have to care about something to do good work with it, but it certainly makes it easier. You really don't have to care about something to do good work for it. I mean, that's what being a professional is doing excellent work for the most like ludicrous piece of garbage. So many of the feature films I worked on and commercials were just terrible, absolute dreck. And I did some spectacular work during those. All of that is true. Good luck, SS Draws. Your question has a plaintive quality to it that makes me feel protective of you. And I hope that examining your point of view, and also, you know, talking to friends, talking and getting a perspective from an outside source about your own point of view is also really, really helpful. So if you do something creative, I would advise you to find ways to get other people to see the creative output you're doing and give you feedback about it. Whether that's going into a group show or just asking someone, hey, can I show you stuff I'm working on? And I'm curious what you think. That can give that perspective from the world about you and your point of view is really, really important and interesting.
Thank you for watching that video. Are you as sick of the tosses to membership as I am? Good, because here's a brand new one that I recorded today, and it's nice and short. There are 3 tiers to Tested membership, and they all offer awesome stuff. Find out about it by clicking the join link below. We'll see you there.